I want you to ignore your tapping training the next time you sit down to tap. And I spend as much time as anybody thinking about processes and tools and recipes and ways that we can engage with the healing and transformational process in an organized, straightforward way. I mean, I have years of videos and podcasts on what I think are useful ways to approach tapping. And today, I'm going to ask you to throw out all of those ideas the next time you sit down to tap, because sometimes the way we think about transformation can actually get in the way of transformation. This is Monterastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 610, originally aired May 8th, 2024. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to join me. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. Now, one of the things that is super important for me in every aspect of my life is when I am going to do something, I want to do it with deliberate intent. And what I mean by that is I want to have a really clear idea of what I'm trying to achieve, big picture, and what is the next action I want to take, and what do I want to achieve from that particular next action. And so when we're moving into things, I want to be doing it with purpose. I want to be doing it with intention. But sometimes we can get so wrapped up in our approach and our intention that it actually gets in the way of us being able to achieve what we want. And so today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a tapping approach with you that runs counter to almost every single thing I teach. It's something I tap on regularly, and I think it's something that's going to make your life significantly easier the next time you sit down to tap. Now, before we jump into this, I just mentioned tapping a couple of times. If you are new to tapping, tapping is this absolutely amazing tool that I use daily for myself, with my students, with my clients. If you are new to tapping, all you need to do, follow the little red arrow in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you to learntotap.com. It will teach you all the basics. So the stuff that we are talking about here, it'll make it super easy for you to engage with it and start using the tool for yourself as well. My favorite part of teaching is the questions that I receive from my students and the questions I receive from my clients. Because when I am asked a question about the thing that I have just taught, what it does is it gives me a couple of things. One, it gives me an opportunity to recognize the places where I have not been as clear as I think I have been. Oftentimes, I think I'm teaching A, B, C, D, and I'm really teaching A, D, L, R, Y. And so the questions help me to recognize where I'm skipping steps and where I'm leaving things out. But the other thing that questions give me is they give me a new opportunity to think about the work that I'm doing from the worldview and the experience of my clients and my students, because they have a different experience than I do. And not just with tapping and not just with issues, but with transformation and just being a human. And oftentimes when people are asking questions from their own perspective, it gives me a chance to get insight. And sometimes when we are asking questions, and I say we because I'm a part of this as well, we get caught up in asking questions, not in an attempt to get more understanding, not an attempt to take what is being taught and to apply it to our own experience, but instead we're trying to get it right. And transformation, when I think about it, I oftentimes think about the difference between cooking and baking and getting it right. So the difference between baking and cooking is this. Baking is a science. You have to have your ratios of sugar and butter and temperature and baking soda and baking powder in the exact right proportions, or the chemistry will not work the way it's supposed to. It won't rise. It will rise too much. It will be the wrong color. There's precision that goes with baking. Where cooking is much more of an art. Now, there are some very specific fundamentals that underline art. Art is not just randomness, that there are things that make art more useful, that make art more enjoyable, that make art more engaging. Cooking is like that. There are fundamentals about sweet and spicy and how we combine those things. How do we add acid to it? What does a little salt do to bring out what is going on? But once you understand the fundamentals of cooking, there's so much more art to it. Because you like things at a different level of spice than I like things. That it doesn't impact the way that baking ratios impact something, but there is an art inside of that. And that's the way I approach transformation. Transformation is so much more an art than it is a science. There are fundamentals, and I talk about those fundamentals in these podcasts all of the time about what frames the way I approach transformation. Understanding these fundamentals are super, super important. But there's not an exact right way to do transformation. Because there is experience that you have that I haven't had, and vice versa. There is disposition, there's worldview, there are things that we are trying to achieve, that your outcomes might be different from my outcomes. The way we measure success might be differently. And so when I am teaching something, and as much as I love hearing those questions, at a certain point, we get to the place where the questions are no longer about filling in the gaps. The questions are no longer about how do I apply this to my own lived experience. The questions land in the spot of how do I do this right? And I can so sympathize with that desire. Again, I talked about earlier how I am part of that group of people who ask those questions because I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my energy. And my subconscious mind wants to get it right because the subconscious mind doesn't want us to waste time and energy. And it's afraid that if I don't do it exactly right, then I'm not going to get the outcome I want. And then I'll have wasted time and energy. And so it's trying to save that by figuring it out. But at a certain point, when it comes to transformation, we just have to dive in. We just have to approach. We just have to step into doing that. But like all things, that is easier said than done. I can have that intellectual understanding that I need to let go of this desire to get it perfect. But that doesn't mean that there still isn't that emotional resistance that is hanging out inside of there, which is making it hard for us to let go. Because emotionally, that subconscious desire to getting it right is still there. So this is what I'm going to propose to you as a way of doing a tapping session or as a way of starting a tapping session is I want you to let go of the processes, the formulas, the approaches, the teachings, and I'm including everything that you have ever learned from me. I am the master of having a step-by-step approach to absolutely everything. That's just the way my brain works. It creates these recipes, it creates these processes, which I think are really, really useful until they're not. And so what I want you to do is I want you to take all of those and I want you to set them aside. And the next time you sit down to tap, I want you to give yourself permission not to tap right, not to tap in a way that's going to be perfect, not going to be tapping in a way that is going to clear every single thing in this moment. And so in order to do that, what I want you to do is I have some suggestions. And again, these are suggestions. These are not the right way to do this. But these are some suggestions that are going to make it easier for you as you engage with this to be able to release and let go. And these are tapping phrases that I tap on regularly. And so what I want you to do, if it's safe, if you're allowed, if you can do it right now, I want you to do a little tapping with me and just see how it changes your approach to transformation. So take a nice big deep breath. And I want you to just think about the desire to be successful as you sit down to tap. I want you to think about the desire to create transformation in your life. I want you to tune into those hopes. And as you do that, I have a feeling that we're getting our way to some expectation as well. So this is what I want you to do. Tap at the side of the hand, take a nice big deep breath. And just move from tapping point to tapping point, repeating after me. I give myself permission to tap without agenda. I give myself permission to not know where to start when I am tapping. I give myself permission to know that simply tapping is useful. I give myself permission to know healing will unfold. I give myself permission not to have the answer before I start. I give myself permission to be easy with the process. I give myself permission to just tap. And take a nice big deep breath. Now I want you to notice one of two things. One is, I want you to notice and see where the openness is, where the release is, where the relaxing is. If you've landed in that particular space, these 7 phrases are an amazing entry point into making your tapping easier. You can do this at the beginning, so it takes away your agenda while tapping, or you can just tap like this and then set the timer and tap for a couple of minutes. You're going to find an amazing amount of relief when you do that. I do this sort of tapping all of the time. The second thing you might notice is with one or any of those 7 phrases, you might have noticed some resistance. The part of you that's going, yeah, but... The part of you that's going, oh, but I really want to. If those sorts of things are showing up, what I'm going to encourage you to do is go to last week's episode. Go back to episode 609, and I want you to pay attention to what came up with those tail enders. And in 609, it's going to show you exactly how to tap for and release those tail enders so that you have less resistance every single time you sit down to tap. Now, that little image I got right here on the screen for you is those 7 phrases, which makes it super easy for you to tap along. If you'd like to get a copy of this image, all you need to do is go to tappingqanda.com/no-agenda. That's tappingqanda.com/no-agenda. You can find that in the show notes so that if you can just click on that and download it right away. It's a way of framing, of a way of helping you to step into this in a way that is a little more relaxed. These are not the best phrases. These are not the only phrases. This is just a jumping off point. Again, this is not how do we do this exactly right. These are just ideas that I like to tap on. Once you print that out, find the phrases that will work for you, write them on that page so that you're setting the table. And again, for me, by having something simple like this, helps me to let go of doing it right because of a little guidance. And in this case, the guidance is helping me not to have to do all of it right as I engage with that particular process. If you know someone in your life who'd really appreciate this, please be our ambassador, pass it along. Even if they don't consume this in any way at all after you email them, the simple fact that you have reached out to them and said, hey, I'm thinking of you today, this might make a difference in your life. On screen right now, you will see a playlist that you can click on that has all of the past episodes of the podcast there. Click on that, like it, subscribe it, make sure you turn on the notifications so each time a new episode comes out, you get that content right away. And I look forward to tapping with you again real soon.